Okay. So yeah. So ecosystem engineers, beavers, what they do is, so as I had told before, they divide the pond or they'll make the stream. So they'll do a lot of activity, which will create new habitats for plants and animals. Now you see if something happens, if poisoning happens in this, like I'm just giving a situation where they will bring, although the dams are not that strong, but over the course of period, it will be filled with mud and so on. And a lot of things will deposit here and it will become like a permanent or a near permanent separation. Okay, so the two habitats start differing from one another and become significantly two different habitats. So this is what an ecosystem engineer does. Okay, Arya, is it clear? Hello?
It is clear, Ananya. I think she has a network problem.
Okay. Anyway, it's getting recorded. I'll play it tomorrow again. Okay. So in marine environment, we can see filter feeders and planktons are ecosystem engineers. Now see how questions come is this beavers, so you have to remember. Okay. Now when we look into the marine ecosystem, we can see the filter feeders and the planktons. They are the ecosystem engineers because they alter the turbidity and the light penetration. Planktons, if they come on the surface, lot of planktons, and then the filter feeders are also there. So there will be definitely a problem in the turbidity and the light penetration, and thus they control the depth at which the photosynthesis can occur. So as I had explained before, the engineers, they can modify, maintain or destroy a habitat, right? So in this case, they are modifying the environment, modifying the process of photosynthesis, which is a limiting thing there. Thus in turn limits the primary productivity of benthic and pelagic. Benthic is bottom dwelling and pelagic is on the surface habitats, and influences the consumption pattern between the trophic groups. Okay, so planktons and filter feeders, remember it as an example. Okay, it is important in marine environments. Then you must have seen a parrotfish in, those who have aquariums must have gone to the fish shop and seen the parrotfish. They often help to maintain the coral reefs as they maintain the micro, as they feed on the macroalga that competes with the coral. See, coral are also organisms, right? And there is a category of macroalgae that competes with the coral. So if parrotfish is abundant there, what it will do is it will feed on these macroalgae and control the coral. So once a question was asked on parrot,
Ananya,
yes,
Arya is in waiting room, it seems.
just a second.
She got disconnected.
Okay. I can't find her although. Okay. I'll just give her a call. Okay, I can't find her. Okay, let me see. Okay, meanwhile, I'll start it. Mm, Arya, hello? Yeah. Okay. No, it's okay. You just try to join again. I could not actually. There's when I share the screen, I cannot see the. Okay. Okay. Are you joining now, Arya? Okay. Just a minute. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay. 2 people joined. Okay. I'll start the screen sharing. Mm. So I was talking about the parrotfish, that what it does is, all have joined. It maintains the coral reefs because it will feed on the microalgae. Okay, that competes with the coral. And yes, so ecosystem engineers and the eco keystone species are same. Okay, we have to remember this. Now, this trophic structure, I will cover this in the lecture D because, sorry, G. It is same there. All the food chain, the food web, and the ecological pyramids, everything will fall in there. So I'll take all these things there itself, the number pyramid, the biomass, and the energy pyramids. Now we are switching to another important thing, that is we have already read about the bottom up and the top down controls. I hope there is no doubt in this. If anything is there, please let me know. So I have talked about all this, right? So I'll just read this down. The top down model, also called the trophic cascade model, proposes that control comes from the trophic level above, that is from the predator itself. So negative, negative, positive effects it will show. How? If the predator population will go up, the herbivore population will eventually come down. Suppose the lion population is going up, it will feed on all the deer and the deer population will go down. If the deer population goes down, obviously the primary producer, the plant population, will increase because the one that was feeding on it got decreased. So negative, negative, positive effect is there. This is clearly called as the top-down model or the trophic cascade model. Fine. Okay, now we will talk about something which is very important, that is ecotones and edges. Okay, this is an important aspect of community structure is the very important aspect. Okay, boundary between one habitat and its neighbor. Okay, we all know, right, there is no clear cut demarcation between two habitats, except we can expect some clear cut demarcation where we can see the sea being separated from the shore and so on, right? But generally we cannot see a very clear cut edge or a boundary between two habitats. So the edge is the edge. Okay, the clear cut demarcation is known as the edge, but the unclear demarcation or the transition zone is known as the ecotone. How will you remember this term ecotone? There are skin tones, right? There's no clear cut demarcation between a skin tone. So tones itself means different word transition, a transition. It cannot be very clear cut defined. Okay, so boundary or of a habitat may be relatively sharp and distinct, and it is called the edge. And there may not be a distinct border, but one community may integrate very gradually into another, and this transition zone is referred to as ecotone. Okay, I hope this sounds clear. Now this quickly I'll do this example because in exam this second picture comes. So this is the edge. Okay, and here you can see that the tree and the grasses are very nicely separated. There's a clear cut demarcation. But you see in this picture, in the second picture, you can see the grasses are coming in what they are trying to come in the background of the big trees, right? So there's a kind of a transition zone. So this is demarcated by this picture, and this is called the ecotone. Okay, and here further also we can see the ecotone. Okay, here more number of trees are there, but we will surely see an ecotone here because they are parallel with each other, or they are one upon the each other. We cannot see a clear cut demarcation like the first picture, right? And a third picture, the fourth picture, the last picture, there's a wide ecotone. Okay, now what kind of questions come in this is, now it will be clear, right? You know, this similar kind of pattern will be shown, and you have to say the increasing order, the decreasing order, or some kind of conceptual questions will come from this part. So now we know that this is a wide ecotone, right? Wide ecotone. Okay, so edges may result from abrupt changes in the soil. Why will an edge be formed in nature? It might be due to some kind of natural calamities, like there might be an abrupt change in the soil type, the topographic differences, as I told, the microclimate differences, you know, the sea and the shore. Such edges are inherent and are usually stable and permanent. You see, there's a kind of open corridor that is formed between two woodlands. There might become some kind of thing called allelopathy. We had seen the chrysonate bushes. They had kind of repulsion from one another. So those kind of natural effects lead to the edge formation that can be called as inherent. While there is another kind of edge that may be induced. Like in the case of agriculture, we practice the induced edging, right? We maintain a proper distance between two. We cannot say a habitat, but of course two plant species we maintain a sorry two individuals of a same species we maintain a proper distance. So this is called the induced edging. Okay, you can say it, for example, you can say timber harvesting, land clearing, agriculture, livestock grazing, etc. Okay, there is something called pattern grazing also. Now I remember, there are few animals, which there are grasses in between, right? They cannot access this grass between two trees, but definitely between this kind of habitat they can have a clear access to the grasses, and they will start grazing over this, and this will create a clear cut edge. Okay, this is how induced edging can be done. Now, ecotones or the tension. This is the last topic I'll take today. So, the first important point is was described by Clements as tension zones. This is a very important line. Okay, Clements gave this first initially in 1905. It's called the tension zone, where principal species from adjacent communities meet their limits. Okay, tones means a transition. Importance further stressed by Odum as transition zones between two communities such as forest or grassland. Okay, and it happens in both terrestrial and aquatic systems. Basically, ecotones have species in common. Of course, one species is common to the other because that is a transition zone. So, of course, they'll have some species in common and some species which are edge specialist, or it belongs to a particular habitat only. Okay, you see the term edge specialist have been mentioned here. And also ecotones tend to have a higher diversity. This is very obvious, right? Estuary, for example, you see where rivers and the salt water and the salt water and the river water meets, estuaries are formed there. They are very rich or very diverse, right, than the surrounding areas, so consequently may be interpreted as habitat in itself. This is a very important line because sometimes an ecotone, which is just the transition zone between two habitats, end up becoming a frontier habitat itself, or with the course of time or on a timeline, it itself will become a habitat. The influence of two bordering communities is known as the edge effect. Okay, this is the term. It is very popular in case of ecology. What is edge effect? Okay, normally if people will ask you also, you should be knowing this. The influence of two bordering communities, community A and community B, and the transition of the ecozone will be impacted by these both the communities. Hence, it is called the edge effect. So, edge is one thing, ecotone is the other thing. But what is edge effect? The effect of the edge on the ecotone. Okay, now you see here, this is the ecotone, the marshland. This is the transitional ecosystem, and this is the land ecosystem and the aquatic ecosystem, and there's something called transitional ecosystem. Okay, obviously importance you'll read, it provides the landscape functions, seeds and animals move across them, and a lot of things are there. Exchange of material, energy, resources, etc. happens. Also very important, they are the indicators of the climate shift. Okay, indicators of the climate shift, important. High biological diversity and can act as refugia for species under changing conditions. You see, suddenly a condition will change, but we have a safer site called ecotone, which is not, suppose this is the hill and this is the land, and this part is the ecotone, right? So something will happen to this hill. Okay, the animals are not very well adjusted, will not very well adjust in this land all of a sudden, but due to the presence of this transition of the ecotones, they might be able to survive here. Some of them might be able to survive here because it is not very different from this, and it is not very similar to this as well. Okay, so also higher biological diversity and can act as refugia. Okay, as I told, understudied but provide a good arena for study of natural communities. So now, though it is being studied because after COVID, though it has been studied a lot because of the changing environmental conditions. So a lot of papers now you can see on this also. Okay, so difficulty of study, since they are temporary. Okay, and because I told you, right, they can themselves form a habitat over a period of time, but In reality, they themselves are temporary because they scale so broadly, they can be hard to study. Okay. Because it is an edge, it is hard to define the boundaries of an ecotone. That is why it is called an ecotone, as we have read. If it had a boundary, it would be called as an edge. Some can be fairly short, others can be broad, even as we had seen in that tree example, the 4 diagrams. The edges are generally considered to occur where contrast between patches is greatest. Okay, the edges are generally considered to occur, so there is no edge, okay, in reality, but just for our study we can see that there might be some kind of contrast between the patches is greatest. Okay, if variation is greatest, that we'll consider as the edge. Okay, now coming to the last slide of today, that is the control, maybe external or internal. As we read there, there may be natural factors or induced edges were there. Similarly here, they can be external due to microclimate, human disturbance, animal activity, grazing, digging, etc. Okay, but it can be intrinsic and can be species specific also. As I told there, allelopathy, pine, eucalyptus secrete phenolic inhibitors into the soil, and mosses lower pH of water. They lower the pH of water in contact with them to limit the invasion of other species. So similar kind of external and intrinsic factors. There it was called inherent, and one more term was used there, induced. Inherent and induced edges were there, and here internal and external factors are there. So a little bit is left, I'll take in next class. The numerical is left of Simpson's diversity, so I'm ending it here itself. If there is any doubt, you're free to ask. Okay, if not, I'll end the class here itself.